Hey, welcome back to this fifth video of the series, and today we are going to write some tests for our project model. In the last video, we had completed the listing of our projects and we were also able to fetch a project from GitLab through this create form. All right. So if you see, I have two projects which are literally created and rather fetched from GitLab. Now, all these tests were there. However, when we want to add more functionalities, like a project should have issues and we will be dealing with the GitLab issues being fetched based on their updates, we need to add a few tests. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the test that I have written. It's practically one test which resulted in creating quite a few things. So what do we have in here? All right, I don't need the user. I'll just delete that. So I'm creating a project from the project factory, and because the project should have an issue or multiple issues, because project has many issues, I have done this line which says that issue factory count 3. So what will happen is it will create a project and it will create 3 issues which are related to this project, and then it will create that. And then I'm expecting that each project issue is an instance of type issue class. Okay, so this is the basic test, and to make it pass, we had to go through quite a few things. I will show you the changes that I had to make and the number of files that I had to add for this entire test to pass. So what have I done? First of all, I created a model. Now in my PHP Storm, when I do model, I get this dialog box where I can create quite a few things. For example, I can say that my model name is issue. It will allow me to add the fields which I want in my model. It will create the migration, the factory, it will create certain things in my model like the fillable fields and stuff. So with that, what I was able to do, I'll just show you. First of all, let's keep the test ready. And so I have issue.php. So let's just look at that. So inside issue.php, first of all, I have all these fields as fillable. So I have GitLab ID, which is the ID of that particular issue on GitLab. Then there's an internal ID. Now this basically means that on GitLab, every issue will have its own auto increment ID, but inside the project, that particular issue can be issue number 1, issue number 2. Right? So to handle that situation, there is an internal ID. Then we are storing the project ID, closed by in case the issue is closed, the title, description, state. State is basically whether it is open or closed. If it is closed, closed at. Labels, this is a JSON field you can see over here rather than an array. Then I have assignees, due date, and assign to. Okay. So all these are then casted as well. Everything was done by the dialog box itself. And believe me, if you're using PHP Storm, I strongly suggest you use the idea plugin, because this plugin does save you a lot of time. Okay. Now, I have my issue model, which has a relation with the project, obviously, and it's a belongs to. So an issue belongs to a project. And a project has many issues. Okay, so I have both those relations over here. And if you see, the issue is related to the project using a different field called project ID. Sorry, project ID is kind of fine. I think where I had to change was this piece. Okay, so with that in place, I have my model with the relation with the project. I'll quickly show you the issue factory because that's the next thing. Let us look at that. So I have issue, I have project model, issue policy. Let's look at that first. Okay. So when we create this model using the dialog, right, it does give me a checkbox whether I want the policy file or not. I had created that. Now, right now, I don't have an authentication system in place. I have no user login, which I need to do. I understand it needs to be done quickly. But as of now, so what I have done is everything is returning true. Okay. But when I have my authentication in place, we will fix this. So it's a to do at our end. What else? I have my auth service provider. Well, why do we need that? When I create a new policy, it's fine. I'm saying that based on this policy, a model can be viewed by any, that returns true, view individual issue, fine, this is there. But how does Laravel, the framework, understand that we have some policy for a particular model? Well, that's where this thing comes into picture. So we are defining, like the project, we have an issue model and we are saying that this model has a policy class. So whenever these kind of actions are performed, like view, create, update, that policy will be checked by the framework automatically. Okay. Now, what's the next one? Enum trait. Yes. So before we understand this trait file, I think I'll need to show you the issues table migration. So you saw in our model, these are the columns that we have. And obviously I have the migration for them as well, like GitLab ID, internal ID, project ID, blah, 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 blah. Now, this state I have seen through the different APIs on GitLab, there are only 2 states I could understand. Okay. So I decided to create an enum out of it. It just makes the code a little more readable, because if you see over here, my text here says issue state enum opened. So I understand by default, any issues state will be opened. And if I go over here, I can see that it is allowing me only 2 states. One is opened and the second is closed. So this is quite readable in that way. And then I have an enum trait, because every trait will need to give me information in some ways. So one is giving me all the names, okay, of the trait. The second is the values, and this is getting the entire thing as an array. This is something which I have picked up from Stack Overflow. I found that code to be quite useful. Okay, and that's how the migration is using that. If you see, even my factory will be using the same thing, issue factory. In my definition, my state is opened and I have one more state which is closed. And in here, the enum I'm using is closed. So this way, the code is much more readable. Okay. Right. So I have my enum trait. We saw the factory. Okay. Nothing major, just fake a random. And believe me, even this file was created by the IDEA plugin. So I didn't have to do too much. I just looked at it and generally found this to be correct. Then I have my migrations. We looked at the migration, and then we have this. So with all these files in place, I was able to get my test to pass. If you see, if I run this particular test, it is passing. And if I go to my entire suite, if I do PHP artisan run, right now I have 14 tests which are passing with 25 assertions. And this is where it says model project test, project has issues. So yeah, although we are doing a lot of integration tests where we are checking the forms, we are checking the listing page and stuff like that, but it is also important to have some model related tests so that you can ensure that the kind of relations that we are relying on that model are properly in place. So yeah, that's about it. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. I can see some unused imports. Maybe I'll just run the pint before we close the issue. Close the video, Okay, yeah, there are certain changes. I should be seeing them over here. I'll commit them. And yeah, that's about it, guys. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. If you like this video, then do click on the thumbs up icon. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And yes, if you have any feedback about this series, feel free to comment below. Share your thoughts. What are the kind of features you are looking for? Because this is an open source, built-in public kind of a thing. I would expect some feedback from you. Certain kinds of PRs are also welcome so that we can build this in a collaborative way.